Christmas time means mommy wagon service, and this is an '07 Escalade my wife drives the hell out of. I believe '07 to 2014, they're all the same. ESVs, Tahoes, that kind of stuff, for the most part anyways. Oil pan leak, typical. Trans cooler lines, trans service. Been putting it off forever doing fun things, so today we're going to start digging into this one. I'm going to see exactly what all we need to take out. Hopefully it's not more than a couple hours. I really hate doing maintenance work, but as you can see, it's getting to where it's leaking enough to drip, and I absolutely hate leaks. So we're going to start with just the typicals here. There is a large brace that goes across the K-member in the front, or whatever you want to call it on these things. Looks pretty simple, 4 bolts pull that out. The front diff is obviously in the way as well. I'm going to first off try just dropping the diff down and taking the bolts out right here. The one bolt to see if I can get just a couple inches of drop and sneak it out that way. I've seen some people actually dropping the whole diff itself out, which worst case scenario is fine. I'm going to put a new pinion seal in it anyways. I'd like to leave it in the truck if possible. And we will end up dropping down the steering rack. I can't see this even pulling the front diff taking more than a couple hours to do, so I have a feeling it's going to be more intimidating than anything, just because you're trying to get the oil pan down, but I just can't deal with this thing leaving little drip marks in the driveway and stuff like that. So gonna get started on it. I'm gonna kind of keep eye on time and see from start to finish what it takes me to clean up the pan, that kind of stuff. About 15 minutes into it. Steering rack has two 24mm bolts, and then 2 18mm on the passenger side. And it just swings down. So there's gonna be plenty of room underneath the pan now, so that's not a problem. Head end up, we're gonna be pulling the diff. 15mm bolts on both sides. The axles are all the same. I got under here, after taking the 4 through bolts for that cross brace, it's not even worth trying. If I get out my light, to just drop it, because the frame bracket's in the way here. So it's gonna have to come out, which is not a huge deal. 7/16 or 11mm for your drive shaft loops. I'll get my trans jack out here in a minute, and we'll get this diff out of here. There'll be electrical connector, I'm sure, on it somewhere for the all-wheel drive unit, but we'll just lower it down slow. I don't see any problems. So far, about 15 minutes in this thing. Handful of bolts, everything pops out pretty easy. So looks like there's 4 main bolts or nuts that hold this carrier up to the frame. There's some bushings and stuff. So I'm gonna try taking the actual big bolts out first. Might have to take the actual diff from the bracket itself. There's just 2 bolts on each side on this one. Passenger side doesn't have that option. So actually, I think I'm just gonna take those 2 bolts that hold it to the bracket out. Save trying to slide it away from the stud. But I'll get you an update on exactly what it is and what size, all that stuff, here in a second. But so far, this is actually a heck of a lot easier than I was expecting it to be. So anybody out there paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for someone to do this, you might want to reconsider. Do have a couple pieces here we can go through real quick. Always run a GM gasket, in my opinion. Oil pan, I don't think it's like maybe $20. Here's part number that I used. I believe I got this one off of Amazon, since most of the GM Delco parts are actually cheaper, of course, off Amazon. And that, pretty straightforward. New trans lines here. Those will be super easy with everything out of the way, so might as well do those at the same time. Filter kit, of course, why not? Deck 6. I like Delco or Valvoline. Can't go wrong with them. Overall, I think maybe, I don't know, less than 150 bucks in the whole project. It'll be nice and sealed up and reliable for a whole long time to come. So got the diff out. Let me move my little special handy dandy light here. Oh, by the way, people, this Milwaukee under car light is a game-changing, absolutely awesome tool I just got last week. It's got a magnet, runs down the front, big strong magnet, holds it to anything, you know, under the hoist arm, frame, whatever, pivots, swivels. Get one with battery and charger and everything. I got them off eBay for like 240 bucks as a kit. Anyways, shameless plug on that. When you take this down, there's a couple of 21 millimeter nuts on the passenger side. And then I ended up leaving that cross brace in like earlier, said I probably would. 18 millimeter bolts come right out. It took me longer to put my trans jack together than it did to drop that out. But you can see it's just wide open now. Plenty of room to be able to drop the pan down easily by not doing anything but pulling those 4 bolts out of the rack. So I'll get this dropped. And while everything's down and out, I mean, I don't think it could be much easier to put the trans lines in either. I might need to take a couple 10 millimeter bolts out of the sway bar, just lower that down. Right now I've got, I don't know, 25 minutes and I'm ready to pull the pan. And I'm kind of cheating because I'm on a hoist, but it's a very low hoist because of my roof ceiling height. So SUVs I can't lift very high, probably 3.5 feet off the ground or something, but roll around cart makes it easy. I would say, you know, you put it on jack stands, you'll be able to get this out pretty simple. The diff might be a little bit kind of a pain in the butt because it is kind of tight. You got to compress the CV joints to be able to get this, you know, separated because there's a lip on it. I tipped it down passenger side first, then you kind of just got to wiggle it over this ear, but there was an electrical connector. I must have been thinking of a different all-wheel drive. There is just one little vent hose that I took off right at the diff itself. I'll show you over here. That's the magic. Nothing difficult about this. You don't have to pull axles or nothing. I'm really giving GM props on this whole setup. This is if you're a shop, this is a moneymaker because it sure sounds scary, but under half an hour I'm ready to pull the pan. Yeah, I definitely recommend as soon as it starts to drip, just take care of it. So far, couldn't be much easier. A little side note, it doesn't come with the oil pan gasket usually if you're getting Delco anyways. Your pickup O-ring, there's always problems with these things. They've been known to drop oil pressure because of it even. And this was the original. You can see it was actually kind of deformed when they put it in. There are 3 different thicknesses of them. They usually come in a kit. I've had a couple kits laying around luckily, so this one is the thickest that I can find. Put a little Vaseline on it and slide her back up there. It's a pain in the butt to get this pickup bolt out if you're having to do it later, like pulling timing chain or something. So just figured I'd mention that. Doesn't come with the kit. Get them, make sure you get like a pack of 3. You don't know what color they are. Most of them are always just the thickest ones, but never hurts to get the assortment. So anyways, just wanted to give you that little tech tip there quick. Got the cooler lines on, and I'll get the pan cleaned up and show you if there's any other little tips or tricks. The back of the pan has a separation between the covers, between the block and the rear cover. Same thing up front here. I always put a dab of silicone on it, and it doesn't look like the factory did it on this one. So I'll scrub it up good, put a new gasket on it, dab some silicone on the block side of it after it's all cleaned up, and then I'll throw the pan up there and we'll reverse the process. Got it all buttoned back up, went together pretty easy. Just pay attention when you're putting your front diff in. The drive shaft doesn't want to compress much. So as you're putting the front diff in, definitely align the U-joint with the yoke. Kind of just rolls in, easy enough. Nothing real magic here putting it back together. It was about as quick as taking it apart. Anytime you're dealing with your axle bolts or anything, make sure to throw some thread locker on it. But as you can see, it's pretty much straightforward. I don't know, there's really no major trick to it. I would say with doing the new cooler lines and everything, I got probably 2 hours in it, roughly. That's with pressure washing the front diff and oil pan, of course. I forgot to pressure wash my cool slimy brace, but I can get that at least with a car wash. That pretty much wraps it up.